Hi, and welcome back to my channel, My Tax Guy, where we explore all things tax so we can make it stress-free during the upcoming tax season. Now, for today's topic, I really want to discuss the data breach from the IRS that occurred earlier in September. It is a very disturbing thing, but also with the way technology is working, I can't tell you that that's an uncommon thing. The last real data breach that I felt was this serious was when the Target data was stolen by one of its former employees, and then about 50 million people all had to go get new bank cards. Doesn't sound like much, but it was one of those things where, you're out, you're shopping, or you're out and, you buying a plane ticket or you're paying for a cab or whatever you were doing at the moment, and all of a sudden your bank is like, yeah, we got to turn your card off because Target, one of the nation's largest retailers, had a data breach, and we're not certain of how much of your information from your card made it into like the dark web and stuff like that. It was really a hassle, and one I really haven't forgotten to this day. And I feel kind of this way about this breach, even though in this case it is on a much smaller scale. Now, what happened at the IRS essentially was that, unbeknownst to them, during their 990 review, somehow information about the tax filers, individuals, and businesses actually got out to the public, or in this case, leaked out into what I like to call the World Wide Web. So now, all the information that you basically have filed with your 990 return, which is basically your donors and things like that, that information is now out there. Now, it only affected 120,000 taxpayers, which is a little less than 1% of all filers, but you would imagine that the filers that are on a lot of these things are people who are, what I like to say, in the top 1% of all earners in the country. And these people really don't want things like their social, their addresses, phone numbers, things like that being leaked out to just the general public. A lot of those people spend a good amount of time and money to make sure that just any Joe Schmo can't just get a hold of them whenever they feel like it. And so when you see a data breach on the government side like that, you kind of raise your eyebrows like, hey, what happened? Now, the IRS is saying it was strictly an accident. The socials and things like that are still protected, even the EINs. But here's the thing. They don't know exactly when and where the breach really occurred. They only have the date that they were really made aware of it. And that's where you kind of got to think like, hey, well, you can't really pin down when and the how, but you're telling me, well, because we do take certain things as far as privacy really seriously, even when your forms come over, you don't get a full view of things, of pertinent information. But unfortunately, there's still things there. Your name is still there. Your address is still there. If you have someone who's ever gotten a transcript from the IRS, they do redact a portion of your address, and they redact a portion of like your social and EINs and things like that. But it wouldn't take much for someone to actually go online and find things like a full address, because a lot of this stuff. Now, let's say I lived on a street that was only, to give an example, I lived on Hay Street, 14 Hay Street. Believe it or not, that entire thing is actually going to show. So that's one of those things. It's like, hey, well, we don't have all of that. Well, if my street address doesn't hit a certain number of letters, it's not going to be blocked. My entire address will be there. I know in the city, for instance, there's a Day Street, DEY. There's a 2 Day Street. I've been over there, so I can tell you from experience that something like that, you would see the entire thing. And that's not to say the IRS doesn't take precautions, because they do. But in a case like this, when the leak is coming from their end or the issue is coming from their end, you kind of got to think about how you can protect yourself. And to be perfectly frank with you, you really can't. Not in the case of a data leak coming from their side. This is not like with identity theft where you have identity monitoring companies and things like that. It's the U.S. government, and only through audits, when they have the GAO go in and things like that, when they're getting their audit, That's how these things really become made aware, or just someone really that is into the details of their doing their responsibilities and their due diligence in their jobs. Then it becomes aware to them that, hey, something went wrong. So it's usually one of those two things where you find those things out, but you can't always count on that. Now, what I will say is that if you're a person and you're worried that because you donated, I don't know if you donated to like a very large charity or a small charity or things like that, if that would be one of your issues, or if you have certain retirement funds, because that's actually in there as well. If you're in on anything like that, if it's gonna affect you in a way that's gonna be negative, I would say you still need to take the precautions. I would recommend you pull your credit reports. I would recommend that you actually, if you have a credit monitoring service, you start using it. You go to them and say, hey, there's a breach at the IRS. Is there any way that you guys can check and see if there's any new accounts that's been opened for me? I haven't done, let's say, a credit card application in like 2 years, and there shouldn't be anything there. But you have to take the precaution, because all the government can tell you right now is, hey, there's a breach. And that's the be all and end all. I'm pretty sure they contacted most of the parties involved, but I, again, will not depend on that. I always say do the part that you can do. So if you know who your banks are, you know how to pull your credit report, you know how to pull your credit score, this would be a good time for you to just actually learn how to do those things. Even if you've never really done it before, or you've always depended on another person or another party to do it for you, now's the time for you to kind of take that onto your hands and see what's going on. Because while I want to say that these data breaches are rare for the government, and to be honest with you, they really are. Military grade encryption is no joke, people. It is still on you to protect your ID and your identity, and the identity of any people that you're taking care of, any dependent children, things like that. That is a very big thing. So if you don't know how to do it, there are videos online where they can help you and walk you through how to pull your own credit report and actually read it and look over it. And I suggest that people take the time and actually start doing that. As again, is this the biggest thing in the world? 120,000 people, less than 1% of all filers. As far as the number go, no, it's not bad. But if you're in that 120,000, you're not going to feel that way. You're going to say, hey, how much of my personal life is now out there for anybody to pull? There are people out there who they want to be in your business, so to speak. They want to know where you are. They want to know what you're buying. They want to know who you're buying it for. They may even attempt to, again, identity theft is a thing. Open accounts in your name now, making large purchases, and you have no idea what they are. So you just take the precaution. Get your credit report. Do your due diligence. Review it. If you don't know how to review it, again, there's more than enough videos on YouTube. You can look them up. They will tell you how to read your credit report, and then you will know, if anything's funny is going on. So it's a good time to actually pick up a skill that is actually necessary for your life that you may not have known about. And that's all I have for today. I want to thank everybody once again for joining me. I appreciate all the likes and the subscribing and the sharing, and let's keep doing it. Let's keep moving forward. We're shooting 4,000 subscribers by the end of this month. So let's go ahead and let's get it. I want to thank everybody once again, and you have a good one.